Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live Scribbles with Jonathan. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com. And happy 2016 to everybody. I hope you guys had awesome holidays, got some cool gifts, some cool presents, and found a little bit of time to get away from work. Or if you're the kind of person that should probably work more than you currently do, hopefully you were able to square away some time for yourself and kind of get into the groove of starting off the year right and getting some work done and going that road as well. I want to say again, really quickly, thank you to everybody that was in the chat room a little earlier today. Really appreciate it. And everybody that's watching later, I really appreciate that as well. It's been 2 weeks. Yeah, it's been weird. It's been, it's been really weird just not having like the schedule kind of going on. I will say right now, this is the first episode of the month, and what I like to do, and we've been doing it for a little while now, is just it's a totally critique show. And if we don't have anything to critique, we're just going to draw and talk. And I think we'll fill some time that way as well. But if you are in the chat right now, by all means, please, if you have a piece that you'd like critiqued, please post a link in the chat with a little description of what it is, if you need help with anatomy or something about this looks off, just something that you want to improve on. Okay? And don't be shy. Like I say all the time in all these videos, if you've got an issue, I can guarantee you somebody else has the same, if not a very similar issue. And if you're watching elsewhere, please send me a private message, and I would love to be able to address the question you might have on a future episode, because I know not everybody can make it. Now, that kind of goes into two quicker-ish things. The first one, we're going to do a little bit of advertising like we like to do here. If you guys head over to Patreon, I finally came up with just, overthinking things. I've been adjusting things here and there. I got into a little bit of a flow, which is great. And if you head on over to Patreon, anybody that supports $1 or more, it seems like every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I'll be posting a sketch with a little bit of like a blog post or just like a little talk about the process. So if you guys are interested in that, you can check that out. I also have a $3 tier, which is addressing comic book creation, mostly panel stuff. So what I will do is attach an image of however far I get with that panel. I'm not quite sure if we're going to go right from thumbnail to finish, but at least some sort of like meat and potatoes in there, directly just comic book related. So not necessarily the creation of a book in its entirety, but most of it just being like, here's a panel, here's the thumbnails that came with it, and the thought process behind doing that sort of thing. I think most people probably get more out of that as opposed to how do you make a comic book. I think that's it's not appropriate for that. That's just a little bit more involved, and even the question of that, how do you make a comic book, that requires a lot more on your own part than it does asking, let's say, me in particular or something like that. There's a lot of, you got to do the grunt work, that sort of thing, and learn through failure and, grow on the successes that you have with that stuff. So other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. You can get a monthly sketch as well for a tier. And if you wanted commissions, that stuff's on there as well. So that's pretty much it. And again, if anybody in the chat has anything that you guys needed critique, by all means, please feel free to shoot it over into the chat. Just give me one quick second here. I just want to double check to make sure that I don't think I had anybody that needed critiques or anything. I did a quick check before we started here. I do just want to make sure that I didn't miss anybody. No, nothing there. And nothing there. Okay, so if there's no critiques or whatever, we're just going to keep drawing this guy. We were doing this during the pre-show here. It's literally, I don't even know where we're going with this, but it's a guy in a cannon. And I was doing this, it's sort of like, I forget which artist I saw do this. I think a lot of concept artists do this. It's pretty much you just draw in like this black as we build it up, and instead of like cleaning it up and cleaning it up and cleaning it up, you sort of just, here, I'll show you here. All you're going to be doing is erasing and drawing in black here, right? So let's get our brush here. Where is it? Right here. Whoops, wrong one. So like let's say right in here, it's all like a hot mess, right? Like there's just so much going on here. So we can clean this up just by erasing things, and you do get like a lot of, rough kind of lines in there. But the whole point of this is you can start getting some organic shapes and start to like feel out design that you normally wouldn't get by like our normal process of, okay, so this is a rough, so let's do a blue line over top of this, and then start putting line work on that, where you're cleaning things up. There is something to be said about this like sloppy style, especially with your concepts or gesture or even layout, because you're going to start to get, again, what I said before, of lines that maybe you wouldn't normally put down, like the like accidental lines, or just lines that maybe you're thinking too much about it, and this will just give you a little bit more of like again, that organic feel, and plus the design on the fly that you get to go with, right? Like we can go in here and revision to hell and tighten this up and get it perfect if we wanted. But where it excels again with just concept in general is it's pretty quick. It does take a little bit of practice to be able to do this, and it's not that this looks beautiful or anything like that, but it's, like, well, how does anatomy work with just like, how do I clean this up? Like, this is the crotch area here, right? Like, look at all these lines in here. But, if you sort of know what you're looking for, you can kind of just start cleaning up pretty simply, right? Like, now that looks like a passable leg, right? So you can go in there. See what you're saying there? Did I get any art stuff for Christmas? Yeah, my girlfriend got me a. Was it the? I think it's. I forget the name of it. It's the Greg Capullo Batman, but it's done in pencil instead of ink, which is awesome because you get to see like the early rough raw stuff, especially for people that want to be like pencilers. Let's say for like the big two. It's really good to see somebody of Capullo's level, what he's doing. Here, I should actually move that up. It looks kind of. Here, let's just erase this. I'm just looking at the thumbnail of the stream and it looks really weird. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's on there that is really cool, and there's some back matter as well that helps, sort of clear up some of the stuff that's in there. I got a Copic marker as well, a gray one. It's helping a lot with the commissions. Trying to think what else I got. Art stuff. There's not too much I can think of. I know I'm probably forgetting something, but usually, I don't get too much artsy fartsy stuff. Oh, I did get an art book too from Darksiders, if you guys are familiar with that. Another Capcom thing. I'm a big fan of Street Fighter, and there's an artist, and there's a bunch of artists that are in there, and a lot of their sketch work that you don't get to see in the published printed version is in there too, which is really cool for study. Unwrapped, that's right. Yep, that's good stuff. It's going good, Darren. Thanks for asking. How's Jessup King stuff? Anybody know of an online photo book publisher like Shutterfly? No, I don't. Sorry. Jessup King's going really good. I've gotten a little bit more scripting done, actually, more than I thought I would do. And just spent some time over the holidays there just sort of thinking, like, what's the next steps for what we're doing and what's priority and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys are resolution people and stuff like that. I know it's kind of whatever. It's probably just because it's a new year doesn't mean things are going to change or be different the next day. Like all of a sudden you're a better person or anything like that. But what I like about it is, for some reason, it does feel more like like a conclusion to a year. So you're able to take a second to just sort of like reflect on what the hell you've been doing for the last 12 months, right, or even more, and just wondering like where else do you want to be? Like, do you want to be in the same spot next year? Right? Like we all read books, you all watch movies, you all watch TV shows and stuff, and they have the beginning and a middle and an end, right? So that's why I sort of get into it a little bit more, because I can look at it and just sort of like bulk all the stuff of that year together and just see like, okay, well, did I want a comic out by now? Did I want to go to more conventions? Did I want to be drawing better than I am already? Like, stuff like that, like, real talk sort of questions you can ask yourself. And sometimes you'd be surprised at what you're hitting and what you're not, And if you're not aware of what you're doing, it might be interesting to start being more aware of it so that you can get closer to the things that you're working so hard to do, right? Like a lot of us are doing these comics and drawing and all that stuff, and we wish we could just be better, and maybe we're thinking, well, I haven't asked the right questions this year, or I haven't met the right people and all that stuff. And those are all good points, but unless you're not being consciously aware of why you're drawing, unless you're doing it for a hobby, but if you want to turn it into something, there's got to be a reason behind the madness, right? Like you don't just draw it because it's fun. That's cool, but that's like hobby talk, right? Like people that just draw for fun, and there's nothing wrong if you're one of those people. As long as you're drawing, that's cool, right? But if you're one of those people that just talks a lot about I wish I could draw this, or I should be this, or I'm too old, or all these sorts of like nonsense questions, it's the root of the problem is more so just being like aware of what you're doing with your time. That's all. And trying your best. Like nobody's perfect. I'm far from that, man. But like my house is disgusting. It's trashed. It's never good. Right? And it's just trying to just improve on that stuff. That's all. And there's nothing wrong with it. So that's why I kind of get behind it. So yeah, how about you guys? Is anybody in here? Did you guys set any goals? Do you guys have any achievements that you'd like to hit in 2016? Is there you trying to implement a new regime, getting up a little earlier, maybe doing some sketchbook stuff, anything like that? Going back to the Jessup King stuff. So what I was trying to think was not that what am I doing with this project, because we kind of already talked about it last year. Last year is 2 weeks ago. Sounds so stupid. But yeah, I was bouncing around. Okay, do we want the webcomic? What do we want to do? Like just printed little stories? Maybe do like 6 issues and have that wrapped up story. And the more I thought about it, the more it's just as cool as it would be to have just like that story, which I don't think there's anything wrong with any of that stuff. Is the webcomic at least can be something that's continually updated, have a little bit more fun with it. But one thing that did change was, if you guys remember, I was talking about I just wanted that project to be the fun thing, go to work, come home and just relax, have some fun with Jessup King, draw big muscled mustache men, which is really weird, but draw that stuff, have more of the fun stuff that I like to draw, like really bulbous anatomy and stuff like that, which is cool. But the more I started thinking about it, I started thinking, okay, so there's got to be more of a point of I just want to come home and have this just be something fun that I'm doing. Because that's a wish and a dream, that's not really a goal. Like a goal is I want a book done by the end of the year. So what does that even mean? What's a book mean, right? Is that full 6 issues? Is that just an issue and a half? Like what's reasonable for you? And then you can break it down, right? Like, well, how many days a week, or how many pages a month do I need to do in order to get that goal, and then how many pages a week do I need, just break it that way. And the more I was just thinking about it, it's like, okay, well, the webcomic, again, I want it to be fun. Obviously you want to be able to enjoy the stuff you're doing, or else it's just work, right? But at the end of it, what's the point of doing it all? Is it just for fun? Because if that's the case, that's not. I don't know. There should be. I would like people to enjoy it more, right? So that means that there's got to be a little bit more meat to it, a little bit more drive behind why I'm doing it and stuff like that. So I started thinking, well, this year I'd like to make more money myself, start getting some good savings going and stuff like that. The adult stuff. The thing I don't think enough people talk about, which is money and stuff, but just been really getting into that. So how do I go about doing this? Well, Jessup King could earn money, right? Like it should. I want to be able to eat and live off my art, right? And I work right now at a video game place doing artwork there, which is great. But, the way the world works, it's not going to be there forever. Be nice if it was, but it's assumably it's not going to be, right? So I don't like to think in like, well, I'm here, I'm safe now. It's more of like, well, what's tomorrow looking like? That sort of deal, right? So, in saying all that, that's sort of a really long-winded way of saying I want the quality to be more appropriate for Jessup King to be potential, have clients or something, people that ideally would stumble upon the organicness of a webcomic. And maybe there's a project they think I'm right for, or they're reaching out for commissions and stuff, right? I'd rather be an additional portfolio piece to, instead of just being like, okay, well, I'm just hammering out pages and stuff like that, which is cool. That's a goal too, to do more pages this year and stuff. But I want them to be more meaningful pages. Have a little bit more pride in the hard work that I've been putting into it. And that's just my own stuff like that. But I was rambling for big time. Now let me just check up with what you guys are saying. Hey Justin, welcome. Perfect New Fog said that they got a book for Christmas called The Complete Guide to Drawing Manga. How is it? Is it good? Is it a good book? Like what else are they talking there about? Is it a lot of like drawing instruction, or is it like the business side of it too? Hey Noah. Brett Strong saying that he wants to finish his original graphic novel in 2016. It's good to hear. Jordan, the cartoonist, is saying, I'm thinking of starting an art blog to track my progress. That's a great idea, especially if you want to draw more, right? I think a lot of us we wish or try to draw as much as we can. That's a good goal. But like, let's break these things down. So Jordan's saying I'm thinking of starting an art blog to track my progress. Well, what's the goal on that? Right. I know you're just writing that down, but I just want to talk a little organically, I guess, for people that aren't here, maybe people that are just thinking that haven't really thought too much about goals and stuff like that. But maybe it's well, by the end of the year I want to draw like so and so, or I want to get a job because of how good I can draw. That sort of stuff, right? Like those are still I like the goal, like the end goal, but it's still not trackable. So in that case, it could be, well, every month I want to send out a portfolio to editors or people that are you know publishing comics, like Comics Tribe and stuff like that. Great bunch of guys there. So maybe it's working every year to get good enough to get work, right? And if that's the case, well, do you see what I'm saying? Where I'm trying to go with that is just trying to get the thought process in there of like, well, what's something that I can write down, something I can see, and something that I'm accountable for. And usually you find that those types of goals and stuff they're more achievable because they make more sense, right? Like the easiest one is always the weight loss one, where it's like I want to lose weight. Well, that's not a goal. That's a wish and a dream. That doesn't mean anything. But if you say you want to lose X by X weight by X months or a year, then you can break that stuff down into a month, how much you need to break a month, and that sort of thing, right? So that's all. But no, but like having these, like even Brett saying with you, he wants to finish a graphic novel 2016. It's January 6th already. God, January 6th. So how many days left do you have to make that novel, right? And you can break that stuff down. And the thing is, I find anyway, guys, you guys let me know if you feel the same way too, is by doing that, things get real, like, there's like this pressure that all of a sudden it's like, okay, now it's real. If I don't hit this, well, then I'm going to start falling off the wagon and I got to pick it up. And it's easier said than done, all of this stuff, but I think a little bit of thought goes into it, goes a long way. Justin's resolution is wants to get his YouTube channel. Justin, actually, post it in the chat. I subscribed. You guys can feel free to subscribe too. I'll read it out loud too for those of you that are watching as well. Hey, welcome, Donald. Perfect is saying, I didn't set goals, but I got 3 pages penciled over Christmas break. Oh, congratulations. That's a lot of work, man. Observant Art. I'm currently completing a 4-page mini comic just to get back into drawing. Then I have a short comic based on Swedish folk story. That sounds really cool. How's the mini comic going for you? Is this your first mini comic? And Big D is, I love it. Big D is saying Christmas was good for me. I got Manga Studio EX5 from Santa Claus, and Dread, the illustrated script and visuals book. I remember John said to look at at books on storyboarding for movies. So I got that. Oh, how's that working for you? Are you getting anything from that? There's one book that I heard about. I wanted to do a little discussion once I eventually get it, and you guys can let me know if you guys have read it and all that. But I want to try taking a look at cinematography books. I've read stuff online about it, so I have an understanding, like a very beginner understanding of that stuff. But it was recommended by Scott McDaniel, I believe, like a long time ago on his website. But I just refound it, and yeah, he recommended that. And yeah, okay, so cinematography is for movies. But there's a lot of similarities to that in comics. You guys know that. Just like the shot choices and panel choices and all this sort of good stuff. And I will remind people too, yeah, this is a critique show. So I know there's some new people in here. So if you got anything you'd like me to help you out with, or if you guys, maybe you don't have something you want me to draw over, but if you had something that you wanted help with, by all means, go ahead and ask it. Perfect Noof. It's a good book. It has the basics right to doing pages. It talks about panel layouts, and there's a business side section at the back. He's referring to the manga book. That's great. That's actually something I'm interested in, is that business side. Not that I want to do manga, but there's always little like nuggets of information there. Like I do find a lot of manga is like, can you imagine? Okay, so over there, comics come out like all the time, right? And how often does a volume come out in manga? It's what? once a month, once every couple months. If I'm, it's got to be at least a couple months. I can't imagine, but imagine doing it's more than a graphic novel for frick's sakes, right? Imagine doing that like every two to I guess 3 months, maybe more. But that's like, whew, that's a lot of work. But I don't know. It has a tendency to feel like independent work to me, which is kind of like again that business side that I'm interested in. Just hearing how these people have, like when you guys always or everybody's always talks about like, oh, I'm too tired, or I wish I could have more energy to blank to do this and to draw more. What do I do? I got a family, or I'm just loaded with all these responsibilities and stuff, and this is real stuff that people go through. How do these people like in Japan that are knocking out all this work? What do they do? What's something in their technique they do? That's where I'm interested in hearing like, oh, that's a cool idea. You could try that. Jordan was saying, let me just go back there. I want to make sure I was in context. Jordan again was saying wants to start an art blog to track progress. It's really just to force me to put my work out in public. I think that's a great goal. That's something all artists, if you're gonna be an artist, or at least hopefully make money off your art, it's a hurdle I think a lot of people do have, and the sooner you can break into that, it's easier because then the domino pieces start falling, and then you start pushing into like marketing yourself and the greasy, please pay me kind of stuff. Brett sang for what's it called? For the graphic novel you wanted to do. I already figured out how many pages need to be done per month. He's on page 7 now. Need to be done 25 by the end of January. So I wish you all the best, man. It's an honorable achievement to try to hit a graphic novel in a year. It's good stuff. Hey, Matador, Happy New Year to you too as well. Donald's chiming in here, which is great. Assistants, most mangaka. I always say that I can't speak Japanese. Mangaka, is that what they call the people that like an actual like a comic book artist is called a mangaka or mangaka or whatever. They have at least two assistants to work on pages. Well, that makes sense. Well, yeah, I guess like to be fair, right? If we're doing comics, probably have somebody coloring and lettering, right? Mangaka, is that how you say it? Whatever. There's no point. I'm not gonna remember it. Big D, time-saving ideas are always great. I'm 40 and I'm trying to get back into drawing. Yep, I know, Darren. You posted some real stuff there the other day. And I think the best part is, I'm just a guy talking about whatever, but uh, I don't think it's so much as finding the time. I've noticed for myself is when you start to notice that like I wish I was drawing more, or I wish I haven't done this enough yet, to sort of just take a step back and have an honest answer to yourself and question what you're doing and just how much have you been drawing, and if that answer is like I'm not even really drawing at all, if the next thing you say is I don't have the inspiration or writer's block or things like that, the easiest solution I can say for you, and it's worked for me. Again, I just want to put that caveat out there, is that if you can just muster the strength, and this is really all it takes, is to get up from wherever you are, even if you're a digital artist, right? If you're a digital artist, switch software. If you're a traditional artist, get up and go to your art thing, wherever that is that you draw, and just pick up in a scrap piece of paper and just start scribbling. You'll be surprised at how long you're going to be working for. And not only that, but you're already doing more than you probably were. And I think that's one of the scary realities that a lot of people that get into comics, myself included, right, think about and maybe don't think about is that you can't have artist block if you want to make art a living, right? Oh, especially comics anyway. If you're doing paintings and things, it's different. I think. I mean, I don't even want to talk about that because I don't care about that stuff. People painting and all that, that's cool. It's cool to look at, but I have zero interest in it. outside of looking at it. I don't care about the process of it. I'm more into the illustration side, storytelling side. That's the stuff that gets the gears going for me. All that stuff. So yeah, just trying to get started there, I think would help. I posted something on Facebook on my fan page, I believe, of somebody had an illustration of exactly what I was saying there. That's why I was bringing it up, because it is, I think, really, really cool. Let me just bring it up, and then we're going to critique this here by Observant Art. And thank you, by the way, for sharing that here. All right, let's see. Maybe I didn't put on my. Yeah, I probably didn't. All right, let's see if we can find it here. Sorry, guys. I just think it's a really cool picture. I know it's gone around for a while. That's great. Was it really that long ago? All right, give me one quick second here, and if it's not here, whatever, we'll move on. What the hell? There you go. It's so weird, man. Facebook doesn't make sense. Sometimes things you share show up on your page, sometimes they don't. I don't know. Whatever. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. If what I said makes any kind of sense, you remember it, cool. If not, the other way there. Big D, it is. Oh, is it the wolf on the hill working up the hunger? The speech from the pumping iron? No, it's not that. I mean, that is good too. You know what people need in order to do what they're doing or get to where they're doing is different for everybody. Some people, they just, just do it is what they do, and then some people, they need to walk around the block to get the energy going. Some people need to change location. Sometimes it's changing music. Sometimes it's literally stopping what you're doing. Have you guys ever been watching TV or watching a movie, and then all of a sudden it's like maybe you click on the second show, and then all of a sudden you get that hit where it's like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Or I should be doing this. If you ever get that moment, if you could even get like just the ability to just shut it off. Not even just get up and turn it off. If you've got a remote, just pause the video or shut off. If you can do that, you're already getting in the steps to like, okay, stop getting silly. Just go do what you need to do. And if you're thinking like, I don't want to do it because there's too much pain, or like, I gotta sit there. What if I don't know what to draw? What if nothing comes out? All that stuff you psych yourself up about. Think about it the other way too. It's like, well, if I don't do it, then what? I'm going to just keep watching TV. I'm going to keep not liking that I'm not drawing. I'm going to not get where I want to be. You're going to be all these things that you don't want to be that you're probably currently doing, right? And that might help too. So give that a shot too. Okay, we will do this as well. Just Jordan had a question. Jordan, John, when did you start drawing comic work? Did you try a unique style, or were you okay with drawing like your influences? So I started doing comic work in about, I would say getting serious about it in around 2000. That's when I met the artist that worked at Marvel, and he saw my stuff at a gas station that I worked at. And he wanted to know what I was doing, what I was interested in, and I was in animation at the time. I said I'd like to do comic books. Long story short, I went there for a little while, and he showed me, I got to see in somewhat like how the business worked, right? And it was increasingly and impressively eye-opening to the point where it was like, I need to get my shit straight, because what I'm doing, I was drawing anime and stuff at the time, and whatever, I was not on track. So up until then, I had the parts where it's like you get off the horse, get back on it, get serious, kind of like start losing stuff like that. I don't want to go on the whole story because, I don't want to repeat what I keep saying with all this thing. But inevitably, I got down to the part where it was like, okay, well, I'm starting to get jobs from this, like independent work and stuff. So it started to become more serious. And the older I get, and not having like one of my dreams hit yet, which is working for Marvel or DC on something, I think would be awesome, right? I think that would be really cool to do. But anyway, so there was that. And as for the style part, I started drawing in his style because he's the guy teaching me stuff, and I'm a very visual learner. Reading things is one thing, but if I could sit next to somebody, especially artists, and they start drawing something, that's cool. And I really enjoy that. But let's say I would draw something and he would want to do what we're going to do today, like critique something. Well, he would redraw it in his style, right? Because that's how he draws. So I started to pick up things on that, and how he drew was much cooler than the anime stuff I was drawing. So, and I never known the guy before. I wasn't reading the big books at all. So started getting into that. And then as you go, you start to just pick up on how you draw and what you do, right? Like here's a quick example. So let's look in the background here of what I'm drawing here. This to you guys might look like everything else I normally draw. To me, this isn't even like how I would do a comic book at all. It's like a deadline or something. There's something different about this than other things. One thing I have noticed as I've been drawing for all this time is I am somewhat good at drawing in different styles if I can practice it just for a little bit. But the problem that comes with that is in my opinion anyway, I haven't become amazing in a certain style. And all that's to say is I've started to give a rat's ass about style. So I would say that to you guys as well. Don't worry about if your style's cool or how you draw, if it's awesome or not. That should be the last thing you're worrying about. It's the fundamentals and the basics of comics and storytelling that if I could go back, I would probably still be drawing in that anime style, or even what's it called? I'd be drawing in a lot more animated style, because animation I find helps express story and things a lot better than realism and things like that. Okay. There was a name that was put out in the chat there, and one of you were right. I don't want to bring it up because it's not a big deal. It's just I don't, whatever. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to critique this really quickly. And again, I want to just preface this with this is just an opinion, and I'm trying to look at ways to improve it. Not that there would be anything wrong with what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing because you're making things, right? Which is great. And take any critique you get from me or anybody else that you'll ever meet or ask, with a grain of salt. We're not all right. We're not all perfect at all. And of course, everybody, again, going back to the style, even though I said it's garbage, don't worry about style. There are certain things that some people like more than others, right? So that's going to help as well. Okay, so let's take a look here really quickly. I don't know if you guys can really see it. I just want to kind of take I can't get a good zoom on this. It's just so this Cintiq is. So without going in here or reading anything, what it looks like is we got two, looks like astronauts, and they're checking out a scene. Somebody's touching one, and they either analyze what they touched, or they're checking something. They're radioing into somebody or something, and then we get a nice establishing shot of them looking out. So I'm just going to zoom in here so you guys can see the artwork, so you guys can kind of see what we're looking at. That's a really awesome panel. I like that first one. I do dig that. We get here, and I like what you're doing here. It's a really cool shot, right? It's like that. This is like something you'd see in a movie for sure, where you see the reflection of what they're looking at. That's really awesome. The only, I'll critique that in a second. Then we get here. It's really cool. Him sort of touching it. Looks like they're talking about radiation now and sort of like the damage. So I'm sort of getting like okay, it looks like we're getting maybe a little bit of a Fallout feel, which is always cool. We're having a little conversation here. And then we're going down here to see them looking in there. Okay, so I'm going to critique it now, and then we're just going to do like a quick thumbnail sort of thing over top. Just to say, what's going on. I just want to make sure I'm catching up with you guys here. Oh, okay, I'm glad, Darren. I'm glad. I know we've talked from time to time, so I don't want you to get, I don't like anybody getting down in the dumps, especially with art, because art's such a thing that I think we'll fight for until you're dead, and you might have some good times along the way and enjoy it, but there's a lot of questions and like never really feel satisfied with like maybe I could have did a little extra or something like that. Here's a good example for people that are like in Darren's shoes anyway, where it's I find anyway Darren he gets a lot of tools and asks a lot of questions and tries to get better and tries to, he's looking for something, which is great. But the dangerous side that comes from that is a lot of questions and changing routine doesn't help if you're not doing, right? So if you are looking for cool or interesting ways to draw more or find more time or schedule and stuff, that's all awesome. But if you don't know what you can currently do, you don't know what you can take from these things to add to it. Just my opinion in this, right? So getting tools and stuff is cool, and you'll hear people say it, and it's true. You literally don't need anything more than generic, cheapest paper you can find, a eraser, and a pencil. You'll be able to learn everything you need to about comics, drawing in general, through that, right? Because there's a lot of basics you need to understand, perspective, and blah 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 blah. Right. So as you get more into that, then obviously the next thing comes where you're like, well, I want to draw better, or I want to draw like this person, or what do they do? Oh, that's a cool tool. I'll try that. But and this is something you guys, I talked about it before we stopped, I was like, do I draw in that, like the Freddy style where it's a dead line, or do I go in there with the inks and just ink it because it feels cool and I like the look better? And ultimately it's like, well, you want to make more. So the deadline currently that I do, that deadline style, I can create more work with that faster, and that is the idea, is to make more content, right? So going that route, okay, well that means I have to sacrifice this, but it's not getting lost in the shuffle of always going like, oh, this person draws like this with this, I'm going to try that for 2 weeks, and then you start to fade back in the other thing, and then you try another one, and nothing's getting done that way. It's sort of like the dog chasing cars. Just there's so much going on, and by the time you get it, you don't know what to do with it when you get there, right? And especially everything's digital, right? So many things to pull your attention away. It's the reason why the old school guys, right? They use pencils and just generic tools, turn the radio on or whatever, right? Like, it's simplifying the distractions, I think, will help sort of do all that stuff there. So, all right. So let's get back to this. We're do a little critique here. Okay. So what I would say is, one of the things I would look for here. I just want to make sure I got another panel here, and we'll draw in red. Red should pop up for you guys. Let me know if things aren't getting clear as we do this. So there's a compositional trick. I just think it would look really cool here, and what it is it's one of the compositional tricks is dividing everything up into thirds, right? So let's just say this was our panel. If you were to divide this up into thirds, wherever these intersection points, usually you put heads or eyes or the focal point, and it just makes everything breathe a little bit better. Okay, usually, and not always, but there's a really huge chance that it'll do what you want it to do. So I'm just it's not even English. Where are we dividing this up here? I think you got guides up here. Just put in a quick grid. Sometimes what I would do is just look on Google and look for 3x3 grid. And you just copy, paste it in here, lower the transparency, and you're good to go. So this was the grid. How do we change this up here, okay? So what I'm going to do is just really quick, just sort of move these people around. So I'm going to move him here, and I'm just going to shrink him up like to here. Right. I don't know how close these people are. They're pretty close, looks like, in the storytelling, right? So if I take off this here, so what this does is it might make it look like there's, okay, well now they're really small, but it's opened up a lot of the scene, so we get room to see like more of the background. And the reason why I'm doing this, I'm going to bring it up because at the bottom here, I don't think these characters down here at the bottom, they have the impact they should. It feels pretty odd. Maybe it's because they don't pop up, or there's just something about that just doesn't feel like the impact it has. Okay, so we have these here. Let me go down here in black. Another thing I would do as well is, again, with composition, you always want to think about foreground, middle ground, and background, especially when you've got like a really sweet shot like this, and it does feel like you're trying to play it safe. You don't want to show big reveals until we get there. Like this shot right here is probably revealing what they're looking at, which I think is really cool. So let's think of what we got in the foreground, middle ground, and background. So clearly in the background we got like mountains and some clouds. That's cool. So the middle ground, we've probably got all this stuff behind them, and they could be the foreground. Or what I think is another kind of a cool thing is, I know you don't want to do any reveals or anything yet, but you could probably get away with just framing this up a little differently with like these like big rib cages you have here, right? Let's get a bigger brush on this. Just trying to quickly do this here. And this sort of gives it that idea that there's like impending doom or something's not right here, right? Like this could be anything. And you could go in here and do all your detail and stuff like that and maybe get some little spikes here, whatever. But what this is doing is sort of just like framing the shot a little bit more. And again, with that compositional tool that we have in there, our eyes will always travel. And we want it to go left and right for comics. You already did that, what you originally had. But we get to go here, and we get to see, she's actually looking at him, which is great. And we can even curve some of this more in here and bring these lines so that our eye is going to go to the faces. We're always looking for eyes and faces, right? Like we're trying to find ourselves in things. So we're going to look there, and this guy's even looking down, which is great. Good job on doing all that stuff. Now, this shot here, I think, is cool. There's really not much I would change too much in here. I would maybe work a little bit on the perspective you got going on here, but that's not a big deal. I would actually, if I were to change anything, I'm not saying you should, is just actually remove this panel and just have this sort of like pop up over here. And again, some people don't like comics that do this. That's fine. That's more of a style and a taste thing. But the reason why I would do this is, okay, so it breaks it out a little bit, but it's not the claustrophobia of the panel, like locking it in. That's awesome, but we have so much of that it sort of loses its effect. I find like if you look at like Jack Kirby comics, we'll say, for example, or the old school stuff where they have the boxes, if they're all shot like that, and you'll have like Captain America punching a dude. You'll see a full body of Captain America punching a dude, and the other guy's flying away. Next panel is just a fist coming in your face. There's a lot going on there where like it takes the power away, unless you just had like Captain America hitting a guy, but the panel was a little bigger, and that punch in the face was tighter and smaller. That it starts to have like a beat to it a little bit more, I find, anyway, right? So if you look at what we have going on now, see how this is sort of breaking it out a little bit? And we're getting a little bit more going on here, and it just feels a little bit more like now we're actually here, because this is what this is saying. You actually break it out, so it's sort of like inverting that tight box that we'd have around the guy. It's now he's outside of the box. He's what's different here. So now that you can see that he looks different, it feels different. Usually it'll invoke a little bit of a difference here, right? This panel I think is great. I think, yeah, there's nothing really you need to do on this one. This one looks cool. But then we get this. There's one little weird thing here that's going to happen here, okay? Is that in this shot here, the girl has now walked in front of this guy. I'm assuming this is the guy. Or maybe it's not. Let me check here. So I'm getting confused because I thought this was the guy because the guy's in the front here. So what I would do, and I know they have the same outfit here, is just to make it clear, maybe add like an additional element to separate the two, okay? So I know they got the same outfit, so there's got to be something we can do maybe around the helmet. Maybe she's got, I don't know, like maybe like an extra little like divot here or something, and maybe he's got, I don't know, like badges or something, or a little rounder shoulders, just something to like separate the two. Like you kind of have it going here, which might be cool. Is like his helmet's a little bit more domey and hers is round. Again, the reason why is because all we see is the head. I saw somebody obviously say the obvious with the bigger chest and stuff, but the thing is, it's their headshots here. You're not going to see that. So what we can do is, now that we know this, when we get this giant dome here for his head, which is great, we can go in here, and now I can make this look a little bit more like his helmet. Why am I keep getting that? Right, so now we got that, so that when we see hers, we can get that little divot that we put in there, and it hopefully separates them enough. Maybe even put the other guy's arm over here. Just trying to do things to separate them because they are very similar. So that when we get in this, it's not a surprise that, oh, she's the one that jumped or walked in front of this guy, right? Like something changed here. And again, the other thing is I noticed it looks like they both have this. Which Dennis? Fat Dennis. I don't know which one's pressing this button. I'm assuming it's the guy again. So I would do just the exact same thing. Add maybe like he's got like a little extra something on this, and this might be a subconscious thing that when people are reading this, they won't even notice. But I'm telling you right now, when you got things that are a lot of similarities between the two, adding something is something. You know. Good example. I'll use it. I'm sure everybody's seen Star Wars already. No spoilers. But right in the beginning, it's all stormtroopers, and blood goes on one guy's face. Right. Now, obviously, if maybe you didn't know this, or I'm assuming you did, but if you notice that, it's so when you see all the stormtroopers, the one that's got the paint on the face, that's the one that's different. So you're probably going to focus or remember when something happens. That's a very evident, example of this. So if you're able to add that to your characters here, that's cool. Like you can actually, one thing I'm noticing is this guy's got, I don't know if it's blood or all sorts of rust and things all over him, which is great. And I'm noticing this in hindsight, like she doesn't actually have it or anything, and he has, probably put some more on this one. And just to reiterate it, put some maybe on the helmet and stuff like that. And her, I would, if that was the case, I'd probably get rid of a lot of this wrinkle stuff just to clean her up there. Like, I don't think you need to go as rendered, so that they do differentiate each other, differentiate from each other. One's a little more heavier, and then and stuff like that. Okay, so that's about it. And then the only really last thing here is this last panel. What I would do is you're gonna have to move the text and stuff, but I'd probably go ahead and zoom right in. Maybe even make it similar to that previous panel. I would have their face here looking out. And the reason for that is now if we put our face here, we're with them. We're actually looking out into all of this, you know, horrible landscape, like something bad went down, right? By putting us up here with these characters, we're with them. We're on the same eye level with them, right? Because you're already doing some really cool like angles and stuff. Like you could probably push the perspective a little bit more on these guys and stuff, but it's not game breaking things, right? Like you got an up shot, a down shot, straight, all sorts of things like that. And lastly, the only last thing I guess, and this is just to maybe help you out for another idea, is I'm not a big fan of always having straight shots. I know it's kind of like in a movie, which is cool, but I might even just like, depends where you're going. Like maybe if they're walking into something that's weird, maybe just tilt it down a little bit. I know not everybody likes this sort of stuff. Again, it's more of a style choice on that. Okay, so I hope that helped a little bit there. And let's see if we can get a really quick one done for the last little bit here. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, I just want to make sure. Oh, we got the next page. Okay. Oh, cool. All right. All right. See now this here. This actually has a. I like seeing this. This is page two to this. What I like seeing about, or what I like seeing about this, what I like seeing here is it's much different storytelling. It feels like anyway. It feels more, almost like somebody else drew it. To be honest, you get this really disgusting like zoomed in picture of the tongue and stuff, which is really cool. Right? Like if if page one had looked the way it did, and then we get to this for page two, like ooh, right? Like it's a jarring change. Just go straight to like something like that, right? Like that. Really cool. I dig that. So I really have no complaints with this. Without the context, again, I'm just trying to go off of what I'm seeing, not what we think's there. The second one, again, if we're going to keep doing this kind of shot with somebody looking it's your call. I would most likely just break the panels. Maybe not that much. Maybe we just go to the side of it. It's a good shot. I like this. Nothing wrong there. Another good shot. Yeah, they're all really good shots. I really don't have any complaints. Maybe if there's something here, make it a little bit bigger. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe instead, or something you could do instead, like, is just change the way that these are. This is a style thing again of everything being like straight on. You're doing a really excellent job of everything being looking up and looking down at them, or looking down and looking up. But perhaps just like, like even just by tilting it this way, sort of like we're looking under the guy. Here, let's do this. Let's clean this up. So I'm just gonna redraw it here, right? So like maybe if we had. It's a little bit more of a, well, it's a lot more dramatic of a shot. It's different. Yours is zoomed into his face, which is, it is what it is. But here we can have him actually like looking down. It's the same thing, but imagine we're looking up at this guy, so we're not even sure what this guy's looking at, but it's the same sort of feel. Like, like he shouldn't be seeing, or shouldn't be where he's at. Just turn it. Right, and if you had to, I mean, you could totally, whoops. You could do this too. Something like that, perhaps. Right? It's just changing the actual emotion of what's on there. So I want to say thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody that popped in today. Like usual, this show, in case you came late or you're new here, is every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What we're going to try next week, and I'll make some social posts and stuff like that throughout the week to remind you guys in case you forget, is we're going to try going back to YouTube to stream and see how that works. See, if we get some new people or whatever's going on. Like I did say at the beginning of the stream, I'm trying to spice things up, see if we can get just a little bit more eyes on what's going on, so we can share and meet new people and all that good stuff like that. If you guys have any feedback or recommendations on where you think we should go next, or if you think here's fine, there is no reason to leave any of that stuff, let me know if you like it. And if you were at the YouTube on the last one, let me know. I'll probably do another stream possibly on the weekend, just as on YouTube anyway, just as like a test, just to make sure things are going. And finally, if you wanted to check me out on Patreon, you go to patreon.com/JonathanRector. There's the new tiers anyway for 2016 that are on there, for daily sketches with process talk, just art general, like bloggy sort of stuff I've been trying to put in there, as well as the comic stuff that you sort of saw us do tonight. Is sort of like the process stuff that I'm sort of thinking of putting on there as well. So you guys can check that out as well. So one last time, thank you everybody that participated tonight in sharing your art and trying to help other people out. I really do appreciate that. And whoops, mouse took off there. So yeah, again, one last time with all the goals, and I hope you guys are just setting some stuff up. If you haven't, maybe the discussion we quickly had today might help you think of some things to do for some goals for 2016 that you guys will be able to hit. Okay, well, thank you guys. Have a good night. Keep reading comics, keep making comics, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.